Hey folks, this is Brian. I'm back. Actually, I did do a video recently from PAX Unplugged, so I guess I'm not really that late. But anyway, I finally got a group together to play my Runequest campaign, the Chronicles of Carreen, online. We're using Google Hangouts. And it actually worked out pretty well. I was not sure how, the bandwidth and all that kind of stuff would work out, but it seemed to go pretty well. I tested some screen capture software that seemed to work, but when I tried to invoke it for our session, it was just a test trial. You only get to do it once. So I guess for Christmas I'll get a screen capture software so I can try and capture our game itself and post it up. But anyway, the Chronicles of Carreen session, Chronicles of Carreen, Chapter 1, a Baboon Hunt, Session 1. Okay, the party gets together. There is a Sardarite noble. His name is Rastel, and he has a holding. His son, Callan, is an Asari's noble. He is a member of the party. Also of that household is a Orlanthi fisher. His name is Baro, an Orlanthi farmer named Faran, and there are two assistant shamans. They're assistants to the shaman that supports the holding. And their names are Kars and Garant, and they are the party. But so Callan, his friends, his father, they're holding the entire clan, practically all the tribe. Everybody is heading to the Sundome Temple for the Trade Time Festival. The game starts early on Freeze Day of Illusion Week of Earth Season. While some of the merchants and crafters are opening up early on that day, Callan is walking along and notices a large crowd that's starting to gather around one of the stalls. While he moves up, he is spotted by his cousin Lorand, who is a lieutenant to the light captain of the Sundome Temple. Lorand says, "Colin, come here," and calls him over. He then tells Colin that he needs his help. There has been a baboon spotted that may be involved in an incident that occurred this morning or last night. Inquiring further, Lorand pulls him around the corner of the booth and says, "Hey, there was a murder last night. This Templar here," he calls a young man over, Panvral, he found the body, and at that time he saw the baboon running along the wall of the Sundome Temple compound. Lorand is involved with this investigation of this murder, and the rest of the Templars are busy already with hosting and providing security and policing the entire festival. And we're talking about tens of thousands of people here. So he asked Lorand if he would check out this baboon sighting and see if they can't capture this baboon, find out what he's doing, what he was doing on the temple wall, this whole deal. It turns out that there were two visitors, festivalaries, people at the festival, who were found wandering the area about the time the body was found. And Lorand shows Callan these two folks. Now, they claim they were just seeing if anybody was opening up early. But after some further questioning, the woman recalls possibly seeing a shadowy figure behind one of the stalls further west, but she couldn't be positive. So Colin goes down. It's about 2 or 3 stalls down to investigate that location. He does find a pair of booted footprints, and they are about his size. And he tracks those a little ways north, but then loses them. He goes back to Lorand and is trying to look at the body. And Lorand says here, and he pulls up the shoulder of the body, and there's a wound in his back, and that is puddled with blood around. So that appears to be how he died. Callan tries to determine, was this wound some kind of weapon, or maybe like a baboon claw or some kind of animal gore kind of thing, but he has no idea. At this point, he looks around for any of his mates, and so he gathers up the rest of the party at this point. Kars, one of the shaman, goes to check the body as well. He says, "Oh man, yeah, this is a dagger, all right. Look right here, underneath the fourth rib, right into the heart. This guy knew exactly what he was doing, or was extremely lucky." As they go to investigate further on the Baboon sighting, Panvral, the Templar who spotted him, points out, "I saw him running along the top of the wall here, and they jumped down onto the lay roof barracks." So he then escorts them into the temple compound area, and the two shamans, well, assistant shamans, we'll call them shamans anyway, and Faran the farmer, they climb up onto the roof. They pull up a ladder and they climb up onto the roof, and they can see where the Baboon landed, and they see where he scampered across the roof, and then he climbed down to the, well, he climbed up to the second floor of the Templar barracks. Getting up there, they see where he ran across and then dropped down to the Great Hall roof, and then made a beeline southeast, and then up to the second story roof of the priest quarters. They get up there, and that's where they end up losing the trail. So the Baboon could have gone further east, which would have been right to the temple, because the priest quarters actually go that direction. Or he could have gone, was it south? Yeah, south, and then dropped down to, there's a guard shack over there. So they go over to the guard shack and look down, and they can spot what looks to be a spot where the Baboon landed, the grass all torn up, that kind of thing, outside of the wall, because the barracks, the guard shack and the wall are flush. They call down the noble, "Hey, can you see this trail?" And the noble and the rest of the party get escorted around. They come out through the guard shack into the outside the wall there. But yeah, he can't even see where the Baboon landed. Hey, no idea, guys. What are you talking about? So everyone gets down and gathers outside the temple there, where the Baboon had landed, to try and track his trail, which is going west. They're able to do that. And it's at this point, because they missed a number of rolls, they decide, let's invoke some runes. So they invoke their Fire Sky rune, a couple of them. And at this point, they're using that bonus as they make their tracking rolls. So they track the Baboon west to a large tree, where on the ground there's some kind of a scuffle. And then the trail continues west before it turns north into Tent City. Remember, I said there's like tens of thousands of people here? There's a huge Tent City, and that's where they lose the trail there. At this point, the party decides that they are going to go back to the market, and they're going to try and divine the murderer. Callan, as Initiative Asaris, he's got access to certain spells that, when cast inside an Asari's holy place, of which a market, they did a great market. The festival itself is within the boundaries of an Asari's great market. Great market? Well, a market anyway, right? A magical barrier that if you cross with hostile intent, whoever casts the spell will know that. And so they made some questions with the priest on who cast this and that kind of thing, and that's running a sidebar. Okay, so he can cast spells like divination within this holy place, because it's in Asari's place. Okay, so Galen does his divination. He did 2 points of rune magic, so he can ask 2 simple questions. You can either get a simple 10-word answer or a vision of the answer. And I didn't know how to do this in verbiage, but the vision thing came right to me. So Talon has a vision of a man standing in the midst of a crowd, because he asked who the murderer was and where the murderer was. I do a quick description: dark hair, dark eyes. He does have a distinctive scar on his left jaw, but they're also rights. Everybody's got scars in their face, right? So, but I give him a description. He then describes that person to the rest of the party, and then Callan asked, did he recognize anything or anyone in that vision? And it turned out that yes, in the back is the Glorantha. So he goes, oh, he's at the Glorantha, and they all start trekking over there. They run first, but they start slowing down because they want to cause an issue. They want to be seen, right? So they try to sneak up. They kind of circle around. Callan goes back behind him. The shamans come around either side, kind of thing. And what's his name? Faran Ferran starts to prep up some spells. Okay, as they start getting close, well, not closer, as they get closer to the stall, one of the, what's his name? Oh, I'm sorry. One of the shaman, Garant. Garant then says, "Hey, do I see this guy?" And sure enough, he sees a guy that matches the description, and so he goes to Colin. Hey, Colin, is that him? I think that's him. So Colin casts his detect enemies, and sure enough, yeah, that's him. So then they start moving this around. Colin goes back behind him. The shamans come to either side, and Ferran and Barrow are kind of coming towards him in the front. Ferran casts strength upon himself to make himself stronger, and he casts this spell called Leap that allows him to jump great distances. It's actually a rune spell, and rune spells. I didn't catch this at the time, and I should have talked to the party beforehand about this guys. Rune spells. Well, we did talk about how rune spells are special, but we didn't talk about how special they are. Since you're invoking the power of a god, there is some metaphysical manifestation of that. So if he would, as he had cast Leap, everybody would have seen something, right? Because the power of Orlanth would have come down on him, storm around him, like a whirlwind around his feet as he starts to leap up, kind of thing. So that would have given things away, but after the fact. So anyway, he casts strength on himself and then casts leap, jumps, and does a grapple attack on the murderer guy. He's successful on all of that. And the Colin comes up behind him, draws his sword, puts it to his neck, and shouts out loud so everybody can hear that he's being taken in. He's wanted for questioning about the murder at the temple. And at that, everybody's starting to freak out because when you draw a bar fight is a bar fight until somebody draws, bronze in this case. Somebody draws bronze, and then it's attempted murder. So that's the mentality I have in my world. If you want to punch somebody, if nobody's, it's a fight, don't worry about it. Somebody draws bronze. Hey, whoa, what's going on? So Barrow at that point starts to calm everybody down. It's all right. We're working with the temple. We're capturing this guy, taking him in. Everything's all right. Everybody, go about your business, kind of thing. Okay, so they take the murderer into the temple guard shack at the temple wall, kind of thing, and they ask for Lorand. Lorand eventually comes up with them. They hand him over to him and the Sundome Templars. And at that point, coming through the gatehouse is a troop of Templars and two priests. Happens to be the Sundome High Priest and the Asari's High Priest who had cast the Greater Market thing, right? As soon as they walk through, the Asari's priest goes, "Oh yeah, that's him." Take him into custody. So Templars then take him into custody and they take him back for questioning and that kind of thing. There's some discussion there at the time about what's going to happen to him and that kind of thing. And the priest, hey, how did this happen? Tell me your story. What's going on? How did you find this guy? And so they relate what's going on. Anyway, he gives them kind of a blessing thing in Asari's deal. At that point, he dismisses the party, and the party goes about their business, finding women, getting drunk, that kind of thing. But later on, they are each contacted by a Sundome Templar and are given an invitation. Well, not given; they're told they're invited to the feast hall, the Great Hall, for a feast where they're going to be honored guests. That night at 3 bells, we invented some kind of bell system for time. And so they, that evening they all get cleaned up and they go to the feast at the Great Hall. At that point, one of the players had to go, and that was actually a pretty good stopping point. Although we only played we were planning on playing for 2 hours from like 8 to 10. It was about 9:30. It was 9. It was getting close to 9, but we started like a half hour early. I had gotten on at 5, 4. Gotten on in 4 with William, who's a brand new player, hasn't played any Runequest, hasn't done anything Glorantha. So we did character generation together via Google Hangouts. And we talked a little bit about the system in the game. But while I had my meeting up, other players would pop in from time to time. And so by, 6:30, I think it was, we were done with the character generation and everybody was there. So hey, you might just go ahead and start now. So we ended up playing for almost an hour and a half, almost 2 hours, yeah, between an hour and a half and 2 hours. And so we planned 2 hours because I didn't want to. I've got a guy in New Zealand and a guy in Perth, Australia, and then I'm on the East Coast, Bruce is on the West Coast, and William is in Central time zone. So we've got people, all over the U.S. and all over the world kind of thing. So this timing thing is kind of interesting. I do it Saturday night. My down under fellows or friends are doing it Sunday morning. So it actually works out pretty well for all of us. But I didn't want to get too far into anybody's early time or late time. So I figured, hey, we'll do it for 2 hours, Saturday evening. That's not too hard to do. And then we're doing it every other Saturday. So we have a schedule that we can try and meet and stay up on. Okay, so that was my first session of RuneQuest Roleplaying in Glorantha. I thought it went pretty well. There was, when we first started out, because Callan was the central hub of the party and the scenario. He kind of ran solo for a while, which I can imagine was pretty boring for the rest of the players. And I didn't think about this afterwards, but I should have prompted him sooner to pull in the rest of the players. A couple of players didn't interact that much. They could have been shy, or just the whole Google Hanks medium may be an issue. You don't want to step on people with verbiage, that kind of thing. So another thing we need to work on is try and pull the players into the story more. But all in all, it went pretty well. I was not planning. The scenario is not written for them to capture the murderer. So I'm going to have to write a new side plan and change some future options, because the murderer had some things he's going to do later on, but he's not able to do that now because he's captured. But I've already got an idea on how that's going to work out. So we got some stuff that'll be happening next scenario. The whole idea is let's call it the baboon hunt, right? So follow the baboon. Maybe the baboon's going to come back so they can try and set traps or keep an eye out for them, that kind of thing. So we'll see how that goes out. And then there's this whole underlying story of, I did this murderer. Who is this murderer? And why did he kill the Glover from Nochet? It's not like Glovers from Nochet are notorious evil people, right? And why wasn't one of the wards lit up when he crossed the barrier and that kind of stuff? So some of that discussion went on with the party and the priest, and it is possible that the guy who was the murderer had crossed the barrier with no intent for hostilities, but once he got there, having seen the guy, developed hostile intent. I'm not going to give out any spoilers. But hey, we're hitting almost 18 minutes now. That was my first session of the Chronicles of Carreen, a baboon hunt. Chapter 1, baboon hunt, session 1, getting the party together and going to the Sundown Temple for the Trade Time Festival. Hey, thanks for watching. If you got comments, go ahead and put them down there. But I will reply, because if you're going to reach out to me, I'll reach back. But my intent for these things, well, this particular one is for my players. They wanted me to capture down, hey, what happened during the session, so they can remember. And I do these session reviews anyway, so this is for everybody. I won't necessarily have. I'm not going to have any spoilers. I may do another video just for me that'll have private, that I can talk through my gaming and session issues, but maybe not. I've got my notebook. I've been writing things down. Anyway, happy gaming.